good evening, afternoon, or morning, depending on where you are in the world. My name is Terrell Williams, and I serve as the Associate Director for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in the Office of Admissions at MIT Sloan. We want to thank you all for joining us for another installment of our Identity and Inclusion series. At this evening, we will focus on individuals who identify as Black or African American. I'm excited about the opportunity to host tonight's event. So I want to start off with our land acknowledgement statement from MIT. MIT acknowledges Indigenous peoples as the traditional stewards of this land and the enduring relationship that exists between them and their traditional territories. The land on which we sit is the traditional unceded territory of the Wampanoag Nation. We acknowledge the painful history of genocide and forced occupation of the territory, and we honor and respect the many diverse Indigenous people connected from time immemorial to this land on which we now gather. The mission of MIT Sloan is to develop principled, innovative leaders who improve the world and to generate ideas that advance the management practice. I firmly believe that through this panel discussion tonight, as well as many other recruiting activities that you select to participate in, you will see our commitment to creating a more diverse and inclusive community. Now I want to introduce you to our student moderator for this evening. Karen, do you mind sharing a brief intro about yourself and then introducing our panelists for this evening?
Yes. So hello, everyone. We're so excited to have you all here and interested in MIT and Sloan and our Black community here, which is really robust. I'm Karen. I'm an MBA 24. Before Sloan, I was working in tech policy over at Harvard Kennedy School and doing research there. This summer, I was an intern at Meta, where I was a global operations intern doing risk management things, which was really fun. I also serve as the co-president of our Black Business Student Association, as long as with my co-president, Jalen Hackett. And so we'll just go ahead and kick this off, and I'll just have everyone introduce themselves. If everyone could please go around, say your name, your program, year, for our current students, and then what you were doing before Sloan or what you're doing currently for our alumni. And I'll just kick it off with the first person on my screen, which is DQ.
I don't think he can hear us. So in case he can't, I'll go first, sake of time. And then if we can just message him, dramatic pause. Anyway, hello everyone. My name is Maria Majai. Oh, can you hear me? Okay. Yes. Thumbs up. Okay, great. My name is Maria Majai. I am chief of staff at Amicole, which is a Black-owned beauty brand. We're in Sephora. Shop us. Happy to send the link. And I am a MBA Master's Study Planning dual degree. And previously to coming to MIT, spent most of my career in public sector consulting and doing a Fulbright in Italy on immigration. So that is me. I'm gonna popcorn it over, so I'll turn it over to Tunji.
It is great to see your face on here, Mariama. My name is Olatunji, though. Forgot the questions. I graduated in 2022, did an MBA. Currently working as a consultant at McKinsey & Co. And I'll popcorn over to Brandon Francis.
Hey folks, my name is Brandon Francis. I am in LGO 2024, which is the dual degree program. So I'm getting a master's in mechanical engineering along with this. Prior to Sloan, I did product design and manufacturing operations in the aerospace industry. And I just wrapped up a 6-month research internship at Nissan in their industrial strategy group. And I will popcorn it over to Asia, and then hopefully DQ will have his tech issues sorted out.
Hi, my name is Asia. I graduated in 2020 with an MBA. Prior to Sloan, I worked in Poland in robotic process automation, and I transitioned through business school into investment banking. So I went to Goldman and then switched to another firm, PJT Partners. And I work in private capital raising now. Who hasn't gone? Whoever hasn't gone can go.
I think DQ. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey there. DQ's up now.
Sorry about that. Not sure what happened there, but my name is Daquan Julian. I'm a MBA 24. Before Sloan, I was an engineering officer in the U.S. Army for about 4 years and some change. After that, went to be a project manager for Motorola Solutions, and then came here to Sloan.
Awesome. Thank you guys. And sorry about those technical issues, but we're MIT, we're innovators, we keep it going. Panelist, my first question for you all was, what were your expectations before coming to Sloan, and how is it different from what you've actually experienced or what you actually experienced as alumni, especially as a Black student, our Black community, and maybe you can talk a little bit about our Black community. So I don't know who wants to take that question first. Or if you guys are quiet, I'm just gonna throw it to someone first.
I'm happy to jump in. All right, so this is going back to 2018 for me, which feels like a lifetime ago, which is kind of sad because the MBA was a real highlight of the last handful of years. But I think when I was first thinking about applying to MIT, I felt very intimidated. I felt like I was going to be going to school with a bunch of like super nerdy, really academically high achieving students. And like all of those things are true, but it's actually a wonderful place where people are really passionate about what they're doing. They really care. I was also concerned, like, kind of generally, I mentioned I was living in Poland. I was kind of concerned about coming back to the US and being back in a academic setting, and like had some trauma from undergrad that around like general racism in this education system. That was something that made me a little nervous about it. But I went to admit weekend, the first admit weekend, and had an amazing time. I was actually going to go to another school, and I had such a great time that I wound up coming back for the following admit weekend, and then I ran the following 4 admit weekends for the next couple of years, and even attended the one after that because I also had my now husband follow me to Sloan. What really did it for me was the people I met, and it was specifically all of the Black friends that I made that weekend who continue to be my friends. I'd gone to other admit weekends and like spent the whole weekend there and literally met no one. And I left Sloan with a WhatsApp group full of these people. We still have this WhatsApp group full of friends who we still rely on. Like, we all text each other if we need anything, if we need support, and that group is still very strong. But we all came back to the second admit weekend. We rented a house. We only went to the fun things, and that was the start of that journey. I was meant to go to LBS. My husband lived in London, and I called him the first night and was like, "I'm sorry, but we're gonna have to make long distance work because this is where I'm going."
I love that. Thank you, Asia.
Yeah, so for me, I think one of my first thoughts coming to Sloan is, oh man, I'm gonna drown. I took an accounting course right before, to have an alternates transcript, and I realized how overwhelming it was, like balancing the books, the statements, everything else. And I was like, oh man, this is my strong suit. But once I got to Sloan, and I realized, especially during the core semester, how collaborative, how helpful the mantra Sloanies helping Sloanies is 100% a real thing. And I think just knowing that and experiencing that made the experience amazing. There's numerous classes where a lot as a Black student, I was able to give my perspective. There was like ID lab, there was like tough conversations with a professor named Kara Burns, where everyone is opening up about their backgrounds, about their upbringings, about what makes them the leader they are today. And I think just realizing from not only a domestic but international viewpoint, how people want to learn more about you, your experiences, and how they're willing to help you get to where you want to be, just defines Sloan overall for me, especially as a Black man. So
Yeah, I think I can go on. I think very similar to like Asians or like everyone's thought. Like, I expected a very, very nerdy place, which like everyone said, it really can be at times. But I also felt that like everybody was very humble and very passionate about what they really did care about. So I feel like it was very easy to build community here. or to find people who are like into what you were into and would like to like follow through and like, you know, very easy to build community. So I really enjoyed that. And very similar, I think I mentioned to Asia earlier, like when I came from high admit weekend, or like I forgot BBSA week, whatever weekend it was, she like ran that event. That was my first time meeting her. So kind of funny to see how things kind of go full circle. But I felt like the Black community here was very, very strong. And we still have a group chat. I think MIT loves WhatsApp. So like for some reason we're all in the US, but that's all we still use today. But I think community building was very, very strong at Sloan.
Mariama or Brandon, anything else to add, or we can go on to the next question? No? Okay, great. Okay, so can you tell us a little bit about your experiences of how you were involved with BBSA, or what your favorite Sloan or BBSA memory is? And that maybe hopefully will paint a little bit of color as to what the Black community actually looks like in terms of like social events, but also how we support each other in our careers. So Mariama and Brandon, maybe I'll shoot it over to both of you first.
I can start. I think one thing that's really important is that there are some of us who come from the African diaspora, and there are some who've been born and raised in the US, and there's folks who are second and third generation. And I think one thing I really appreciate about Sloan is that it really intermingles. Like, so DQ, for example, started something called Melanated Mondays, and we just have lunch together every Monday now, and you just see this huge contingent of Black people at Sloan, which we didn't used to do at all. So I just really appreciate that even like within BBSA and also outside of BBSA, that the Black community really stands up and represents each other and are like extremely supportive. I would say one important event for me last year would be we have a mixer with HBS that we do every year. And I think it's really hard to meet a lot of folks that are outside of the Sloan bubble. And that's been an amazing time. I still don't know spades, but I get to watch people and no one's judging me for not being able to play. And it's a beautiful way to like get to know Sloanies, but also people at HBS. So I really appreciate that event. I hope we continue to do it. So that's one of my highlights.
Yes, Mariama, that game night was incredibly fun and was one of the best memories. I wish we did that more often. But I would say my favorite memory from BBSA, and for me, I was sort of a condensed experience because I was here for the fall semester and I left for my internship for the spring. So I didn't have as much time with BBSA and Sloan in general. Hoping to make up for that this following year, but I think the C functions are amazing, and so BBSA had a really great C function, and I think one of the things that was really important to me was that people at Sloan could experience what the sort of like Black sort of culture is like, and I think BBSA did a great job on putting that together, and my core team, they all came out and supported. I'm sure they would have even if I wasn't on the team, but it was amazing to see a sort of outpouring of support from the student body and wanting to engage with the culture. And, we were doing the line dances I think I remember they had some like step dance out there, some Greek life showing, and they had like really good food. And so I think being able to expose people to our culture and have people understand us even more, I think that was the most powerful moment for me at Sloan. So.
And just to paint a little bit of color, our C functions are cultural events that are maybe unique to Sloan that every Thursday during the fall and spring semester, different clubs sign up to showcase their culture or their club. And it's everyone from the Sloan community is invited, and it's a really nice way to understand a little bit about a club or a specific culture. So like the Japan C function usually has sushi, and they put on some really great dances. It's one of the most popular ones. It's usually in the beginning of the year. So that's a little bit about C function, and I think something very traditional to Sloan. DQ, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback on what Mariama said. In the cross-school collaboration, one of my favorite memories is every year. So Tuck Business School has something called Black Ski. So last year, our BBSA, we got an entire ski house together. I think it was about like 10 of us or so, and we just spent the entire weekend out there on the slopes, just being melanated, having fun, just enjoying the time. So I think that was one of my personal favorite moments.
Love it. Okay. So pivoting a little bit about Sloan generally, what Sloan resources, classes, clubs, conferences, did you all use to leverage your career pivot into your internship or full-time role? And maybe, I don't know if BBSA members supported that, but maybe you can just talk a little bit about Sloan generally as well in your experience.
I could take this one. For me, like currently doing consulting now, I think the consulting club at Sloan like was phenomenal. I think like was by far the best resource I had when it came to recruiting. I think everyone who's going to consulting knows about like how many cases you got to do and all the prep you have to do and everything like that. I felt like the people in the class above us were like super helpful, making sure we got all the resources and help that we needed. And then I think even the BBSA kids who were in consulting were even additionally helpful, where they would kind of carve out time for us to make sure we got enough casing that we needed to do and all the resources available, and just to help us navigate the recruiting process. So I think between the consulting club and BBSA, I definitely felt very supported with the whole recruiting process.
Yeah, I would say, oh, sorry, go ahead, Asia.
All right. So I already alluded to the hard pivot into finance that I undertook. And the investment banking club was obviously super helpful with that. But I also just want to highlight that my classmates as well were really helpful, because everybody comes from such a different background. And I think that's like one of the diversity of your classmates and their backgrounds is like one of the coolest things about MIT. But they were willing to take the time, people who'd had banking experience, to like help me prep and talk me through the process and talk to me about different companies that I could be applying to. And then we also helped each other prep a lot, like formed groups and sat down and worked through stuff. And then also want to flag alumni, particularly alumni of color, like they will always take your call, always respond to your email, always make time for you. And so that was super helpful too. And that's something that, again, Sloanie's helping Sloanies. We all work to perpetuate.
Yeah, what I was gonna say is there's like the Sloan bubble and then there's the MIT. And MIT is huge. And so one example that I think it's been beneficial that I've been in dually is that I spent all of my last summer working at IDEO.org through Misty Africa. And it was an incredible experience. Tunji was actually in Nairobi at the same time, working for a very different firm before going to McKinsey. And that's how we became really close. And I think there are all these resources that are also at Sloan, but MIT generally, that really can carve your path. And then even this summer, I worked for an organization called Social Finance that I actually never knew about, which is a bit shocking because they're quite similar to my background. And I found out about them because they emailed me through the Career Central through MIT, and so through Sloan specifically. So you get all these emails from recruiters who are trying to figure out that you might not even think about its paths. So I wanted to highlight that as well. Two different opportunities, but Misty's incredible. I'm trying to make more Sloanies take it as well.
Yes, and to piggyback on that, Miriam, I think going outside of Sloan is incredibly underrated. I mean, like you said, MIT has a huge ecosystem, a lot of smart people who are doing amazing things, and you get involved in entrepreneurship, earlier stage startups, defense tech, all these crazy things. But I think for me, since LGO, we don't have the normal recruiting sort of cadence. We don't really have to recruit our first year, but our second year we come back and it's sort of like full fledged. And I was sort of lost on what I wanted to do, especially given the sort of job market right now. And literally just this morning or just yesterday, a 23 forwarded a message to our chat saying that they're recruiting for an operations role, and LGO is focused on operations for a company that I never thought of working for. But it seemed like a really interesting opportunity, and I'm hoping to follow up on that this week and get more information and hopefully transfer that into a potential offer. So you have 23s who graduated, I guess, what is this, like 6 months ago, already posting jobs and reaching out to the 24s and 25s. So I think it's an amazing community and super beneficial from that regard.
JQ, did you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I should just start hopping in and stuff, raise my hand. But I think one class I really took that I really enjoyed, it was called Product Design and Development. So pretty much is a class structured around learning how to be a product manager, how to do different sprints, how to do customer interviews, how to actually engage. And I feel like that helped a lot in my PM journey. Along with the PM club, there's a CDO, and I know there's other conferences. I know you can speak more towards this, Karen, especially since you're going this upcoming week into National Black, but there's conferences that help with recruiting and helping build out your career goals.
Yeah, so I will be attending National Black. I think it started today or tomorrow, or it started today, but I'll be going on Thursday. And it's a really great opportunity for MBAs to attend. It's specifically geared towards Black MBAs, and there are a bunch of companies that are recruiting and looking for Black students. And so that's really a great opportunity, and our career services is supporting us in that endeavor. So that's something that's really nice that I'm leveraging as I'm thinking about getting multiple offers and figuring out how to negotiate offers and whatnot. So yeah. My next question is, what is one thing you want a prospective student to know specifically about Sloan or MIT, but also Boston? I think a lot of people have varied opinions about Boston. I'm a Boston native. I grew up here, so yes, there are Black people here. But what's one thing that you want prospective students to know?
I can start. The airport is 20 minutes from campus.
There's got to be more, guys.
Yeah, good.
I would say like Boston is cold, and like which is not like a great advantage for us. But I do think for someone like me that like I walk everywhere, and like I usually sweat and I'm walking around New York, or like I live in Atlanta now. Like I think Boston you're not gonna sweat, so when you do get to class or wherever you walk into, like high chance that you're like perfect temperature. I do think as well that like there's some nice areas. Like I found some nice restaurants. I think my second year I got to like venture out a little bit more. It's like outside of the whole Cambridge area, and like find a lot of cool things in Boston. Also like cool sports. There's some good things in Boston. I think you just need to like be open to like leaving Cambridge, which a lot of people kind of get stuck in that Sloan bubble. But I think outside of Cambridge, I found a lot of cool things to do.
I'm gonna be very honest. I
Go
do
ahead.
not like Boston. I do not like, I'm from New York. Let's stop playing games. Sorry. I'll be very clear. There are Black people in Boston. Boston's also one of the most segregated cities in the entire country for a reason. And so where Sloan is in Kendall Square. Back Bay is actually quite beautiful in Beacon Hill. There are students who I've known who try to be like, I want to be surrounded by Black people all the time. And so they've lived in Roxbury, lived in Dorchester, but the commute can get really, really tough very quickly, especially in the cold and not reliable transportation. And so I know on my end, I made the sacrifice to say, okay, things might close by 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. I might not find the parties or like the clubs I want to go to that I could do in New York. And I think that's actually why BBSA really matters, because I feel like BBSA and the Black students at Sloan create such a strong community to make up for those challenges. So, for example, we'll host things, we'll have things together, we'll party together, and we create that space because it's not often that we get to have those awesome environments in Boston. But that's my personal opinion. I'm from New York, so I have a personal bias.
I will also add that like every single Black student at all the different schools has the same issue, and I think like that's why the whole like HBS MIT mixer came together. You get a chance to like really like bring leverage communities across different campuses in Boston, right? So I think if you're open to like branching out to like the Harvard or Tufts or whatever's around, like you can find a real good community and like Mariama said, kind of party together and have a lot of kickbacks and stuff like that.
Yeah, I will jump back in because I was joking. I mean, it is kind of advantageous to be able to take a 20-minute Uber to the airport, but not the highest highlight. I think the benefit of being at a school that is in such a small community and like not having a ton of stuff to do outside of it is you do wind up getting really close to each other and relying on each other. And I think it's a very different experience to be like in the heart of New York City. Yes, you have everything you could possibly do, but also people wind up doing everything instead of hanging out together and like really developing bonds that carry forward. So I mean, my world was pretty small when I was at Sloan. I stuck around in Cambridge, but it was also very rich. My first year I lived with, I think we were like 5 or 6 of us, all Black people in a house. And like just down the street, there was another similar house. We all just hung out together all the time. Like people would pop into each other's homes and just chill. It was a wonderful couple of years.
Also, I think Boston's beautiful in the fall. I just have to defend Boston, okay, guys? It's not going to be New York, but it is beautiful in the fall, especially the winter. It's a little cold, but I mean, you wear a lot of layers. And MIT, Sloan especially, there are tunnels or it's kind of connected, so you don't really have to go outside in the winter. So okay. So I'm going to transition to some of the questions that have come in from our prospective students. So the first question that I have here is, what made you join the MBA program at the current point of your career?
I can answer that. So right out of the college, so I was a mechanical engineer. Right out of college, I joined a rotational program that was, let's say, 4 years, right? A few rotations. And after I'd finished that, I was looking for something to do in terms of progressing my career. And long story short, I found that the MBA program or MBA programs in general were very focused in operations, and I could come here and get a foundation, an academic foundation in operations, and then use that to either go back to the industry I was in or pivot. And so it was a very natural progression to me. I think, having 4 to 5 years of experience is a sort of like this sweet spot. You'll be able to sort of empathize with your fellow classmates and contribute more to the discussions that you have during some of your classes with that amount of experience or years of experience. But yeah, obviously that's not really a hard rule. So just wanted to relay my experience on that.
The way I was thinking about it, so I knew I wanted to do an MBA coming out of undergrad. So I was kind of thinking about that as I made decisions about my career from then on. I think I was about 2.5 years into work when I applied for and transitioned out of work and towards the MBA. That was a little early. I think to your point, 4 or 5 years is actually really helpful because I do think I could have, with more experience, I could have brought more to the classroom and potentially also gotten more out of it. It was still amazing and like wouldn't change any of it, but I do think there is value in having a little more experience. And the other thing that was a catalyst for me was I took a step back and looked at my career, and I could see that I didn't have a ton more to learn in the role that I was in. And it was also going to be kind of difficult for me to transition out of the position that I was in. And so I felt like it was a good opportunity for me to go while I had this story of like a lot of growth over a short period of time, when I could see that I was probably going to plateau a bit from a application storytelling perspective.
Yeah, I think I was 5 years once I started Sloan. I tell a lot of folks this. I don't know if folks would disagree, but I'm a big fan of not having a year or two of work experience before starting grad school. In part, just to give context, is that I learned so much here that I could be like think of very specific examples at work where it came up or might be useful or entering into a new space. Also, because the core is only 1 semester, so really have like 3 semesters to figure things out and to explore new paths and take classes that are interesting to you. I think in undergrad, like we can have a lot of fun with things, but if you only have 3 semesters left. You want to maximize just like both what you can get out of it. And I think sometimes when you're just coming from undergrad, it's a bit challenging to do that. But that's just my, my 2 cents on that. I really appreciated having as much time as I did in between. And I know people who do it like 3 years after, people do like 15 years after. Some people do it, take a break. I don't think business school is a break. I think we thought it was, but it's not. But it is useful to like a moment in time in your career where, okay, you can be promoted, but maybe not, or you want to do a pivot, or there's something that you want to explore that I went to school because I wanted to learn again. I wanted to have the time to like sit in a classroom and to like get time to think through things while having to not necessarily learn on the fly with high pressure. So that's the reason why. But I think everyone has a different reason why they go to business school.
Thanks, guys. And hopefully that answers also the person who asked about deferring the deferred MBA program during their senior year of undergrad. I would, try and get some work experience before coming into an MBA program. I just think you get a lot more out of it once you have a few years under your belt.
Karen, I want to quickly jump in real quick on the 2+, because I did so I don't know if guys on the panel, like once you graduate from MIT, you can interview like people coming into school. So just something to know. But I met a lot of the kids doing like the 2+2 program during that process. And like, it's not for everybody, but like you can always apply to it and always defer. Like you don't have to like go, like you can have it and then still not use it later. So I think like if you have the capacity in your life as a senior in college to get in, like have it and keep it in your back pocket. And then you might revisit later and say, hey, I don't think it's the time, but it's not going to hurt you to bang it out if you have that time. I think taking tests at 22 as a senior in college is a lot easier than taking a GMAT for me later on. So it's something to think about as well. But yeah, that's it.
The other benefit of it is it de-risks the 2 years that you spend leading up to your MBA. So you can focus on anything you want to, and you can do something that is like purely passion projects, totally interesting to you. You don't have to like optimize for the same things.
Okay, thanks, guys. Okay. What were some of your favorite electives at Sloan? I'm gonna kick it off and say that one of my favorites, it wasn't really, and maybe it is considered an elective, I guess, is competitive strategy. It's a really hard class. You get cold called, you sweat a little bit every time. You sweat for the hour and a half. There's a little bit of trauma from it, but it's such a fundamental class of understanding the competitive landscape, understanding like business, how businesses think. I came from a philosophy undergrad, and I did like political campaigns, and so I knew nothing about how businesses operated, and I think the class was really worth taking, even though it was a little traumatic. But I'll let you all answer, and curious to hear what your favorite electives are.
I'm going to stay away from competitive strategy. I think that class was learned a lot in a very intense way. ID Lab, I don't know if you guys if ID Lab, if you guys had a chance to take it, but you used to have to apply for it, and it was like very selective how you kind of got into the class. But I think by far like my most class I enjoyed the most at Sloan. It's very different from typical MIT classes, a lot more emotions based. I think like the first day of class, 3 people cried, and I was like, "What's going on?" But it was the most impactful class I had at MIT. I think they kind of changed the way you could kind of get into, make it more available to the wider student body, but definitely a class that I'd recommend for anybody who would attend the Sloan.
And just for context on ID Lab, people aren't just crying because they're being traumatized. Like the whole point is to unpack who you are as an individual leader and talking about how you grew up and what the impacts of those are. And the point of it is to really truly unpack who you are as a leader and how your past has shaped that and what you want to be in the future. And I could not agree more. I absolutely loved ID Lab. I follow my professor in every class she takes now, or she teaches now. So it's an incredible course. It bids for a lot for a reason. I really enjoyed competitive strategy. I think it was a lot of fun, but I also want to start up. So I was applying everything I was learning literally every single day. And I really enjoyed consumer behavior as well, because I love all things psychology and behavioral science thinking. And that's been a really fun class. I'm in corporate finance now, which I actually think will be fun, which is weird to say corporate finance. But yeah, I think that's all I say.
Yeah, 100%. I'll double tap on the ID lab on strategy. There's actually a question in the chat I can like double, I guess, get. So my favorite class is actually I talked about it a little bit before, is PDD, product development and design. Pretty much the aim of this class is you work cross-functional across the design program, the engineering program, and there's one more I'm blanking on. But pretty much you start with about 100 different ideas and it boils down to 10 ideas, and you get into teams, and each team gets about $1,000 to make a product that will solve an existing issue that currently exists. There's things revolving around sustainability. We did around personal health, around sanitation, and some of the products in years past, they actually became streamlined where they hit the market and actually became like their own companies. And they're doing that, they're post-grad now. My team, we specifically did one on bad posture and working at the computer desk in class. And we're able to dive into those technical aspects. This question is pretty much asking, were there opportunities to dive into the technical side, even though you weren't in the engineering program, like the LGO program? So yes, there were those aspects within that class and within the certificate, and plenty of other classes just like that.
Okay, thank you all. The last question I think we have is, I saw a question about, so is there like a hidden gem about Sloan that you wish you knew before stepping on campus? So I know like Sloanie's helping Sloanies is like a motto that's maybe on our website. I'm not sure if it's on our website or it's informal, but I think is really true to Sloan of we're always helping each other out in our community out. And I think you see that from like the moment that you step on campus or come to Admit Week. So that was something that I heard, but I didn't really believe. And I saw it manifested every day through my interactions with students, faculty, staff. But what are your all hidden gems?
I'm thinking of the Legatum program. I think like someone mentioned this earlier in the call about like branching out, so just like Sloan, looking at MIT as a whole. I'm not sure if Legatum is MIT or Sloan, but Legatum was something that I think it helps you if you're somebody interested in doing work in emerging markets. So Africa, I think Middle East is somewhere they cover as well. So I think that's worth looking into. They give you some money and also like help your resources. And then obviously Misty, which I do at Mariama, which was just a phenomenal experience. And I think those are the two things that come to mind.
The first two things that come to my mind is one is the banana lounge. So there's a lounge on MIT where they just have like buckets and barrels of bananas, which are donated weekly. I'm not sure where they come from, not sure where they get them from, what underground deal MIT has. But if you ever need some potassium, if you need like, that morning boost, it's there for you. The second thing that comes to my mind is, I know earlier Karen talked towards the underground tunnels of MIT. One thing I found out, there's this portion actually close by Sloan. If you go in the tunnel, there's these like just walls with art. And if you take your phone and you use this app, the art becomes animated in a sense. You may have a woman like juggling, you may have someone like running across the wall. So it's a really cool experience. I think I spent like maybe an hour and a half with a friend down there, just like exploring the art, just seeing how they combine that digital medium with, the actual artistic interpretation. So that was really cool. Those are my two things.
Yeah, I was gonna say the banana lounge as well. You probably won't see it if you don't make it out to the engineering side of campus, but it's there, and I've been there several times. I'm not taking my artificial intelligence class, but I'll say one of the hidden gems that I that I really like about Sloan is just like they have an actual emphasis on like mental health resources and giving you access to them. And I'm taking a course called The Science of Wellbeing right now, and it's sort of places its emphasis on well-being and health. And I think just Sloan in general and the teachers really support people taking care of themselves and making sure that they're in the right headspace, because all of this stuff that we do here can get challenging between academics recruiting or starting your business, it can all get very stressful. So being able to take advantage of medical professionals and mental health resources is incredibly important. And I think Sloan and MIT in general does good to spotlight the opportunities we have here on campus.
I would double down on Misty is awesome. Literally get funding. There are a lot of people who do it also after they graduate. There's a PKG fellowship as well, which allows you to have funds to explore an idea of yours. I have not been to Banana Lounge yet, which is actually very embarrassing, nor any of the tunnels. So we should get that done this semester. I would say the Trust Center because they have free tea. But I think it can get quite limited in terms of lounging and seating. And the Trust Center is the Center for Entrepreneurship, and they host an amazing amount of events on campus. And they're Sloan based, but they reach the entire MIT universe. So any of the entrepreneurs on campus tend to congregate there. So it's an awesome place to hang out. And oh my goodness, what's that? Not SLO. I'm so sorry. Does that? Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm forgetting it. It's right between Trust and the train station, that building where we had a lot of student life meetings for MIT.
The MIT Museum?
Innovation Headquarters, IHQ.
IHQ?
IHQ, yes. IHQ is MIT based, but it's literally right next to Sloan campus. And they have really awesome workspaces. Legato is based at IHQ, I think. So they are an amazing space for entrepreneurs on campus. Also a great place to study and work. We have a bunch of free teas and coffees there too. But it's like right next to Sloan, but you don't really go if you're not part of the Sloan world. Just got to step out of E62 and you can find awesome places across MIT.
Awesome. Thank you all. Thank you, panelists, so much for all your unique perspectives. I will shoot it back to Terrell. And sorry, before I shoot it back, please feel free to send us a message, or at least me a message on LinkedIn. We're happy to connect you with current students if you have additional questions. I know we couldn't get to all the questions in the Q&A, but we're happy to answer things as things come up. Sorry, back to you, Terrell.
Thanks, Karen. Thank you to the panelists for providing insight into their experience at Sloan tonight. I learned a lot. So all those resources I'm gonna have to check out over the next few months. Also, I want to kind of add some insight onto the Boston thing as well. So Karen, I'm kind of back you up as the Bostonian. So I'm originally not from Boston, but I moved here from Florida last year. So there is a lot of underrated aspects of Boston. I really appreciate it. But once you find a community, it's easy to help navigate. So I definitely want to highlight that aspect of Boston. Like there is a lot of historical context about Boston, but once you find your community, it's easy to navigate. But also with business school, it's a 2-year commitment. You can decide if you want to stay here for the long haul or be able to kind of use this as a platform to, go elsewhere once you're done with your degree. So if you want to learn more about BBSA and the community here, we strongly encourage you to, go to their website, be able to do some, research on your own and being able to connect with the student body here, but also reaching out to them via LinkedIn. Like they mentioned, Sloan is very committed to being able to help students with the application process, but also learning more about Sloan on more of a one-to-one basis. We want to thank you all for being here and have a great night, afternoon, or good morning to where you are in the world. Thank you all.